and I'll be your host tonight. Tonight, we're here to celebrate some pioneers in their own right, trailblazers, visionaries, barrier breakers. It's an honor and a pleasure for me, from a personal standpoint, to be in this room tonight with those who just 60 years ago were granted the opportunity to attend West Texas A&M University. And if you really think about it, 60 years is not that long ago. And I know there's a lot of people in here that would agree with that statement. As uncomfortable of a topic as it is, people often don't understand the various avenues of segregation, the multitude of ways in which it was woven into our society. To truly understand the negative impacts and injustices of segregation, you must consider the definition of it. Merriam-Webster defines segregation as the separation or isolation of a race, class, or ethnic group by enforced or voluntary residence in a restricted area, by barriers to social intercourse, by separate educational facilities, or by other discriminatory means. The practice or policy of separating a race, class, or group from the rest of society. Exclusion of African Americans in Canyon, Texas represented an obstacle that kept Black players from appearing in games at Buffalo Stadium. These athletes would have to find lodging in Amarillo, listed from the Negro Motorist Green Book. There were 2 hotels in Amarillo listed in the Green Book, the Watley and the Tennessee, both located on Van Buren Street. The heartbreak and heartaches of segregation planted seeds and paved the very road to the beauty that was integration that we're celebrating tonight. Although the legal system paved the way for integration, factors like athletics made the transition even easier. Because despite the progress made in the court system, African American athletes continued to face discrimination. But white residents would be more likely to accept Blacks who helped the team win. Athletics played a big role in the integration process for West Texas A&M University. Now take a look around. Celebrate the men and women that we're honoring tonight. They're walking, talking, living, breathing history. They're why we're here, simply put. In spring 1960, federal judge Joe B. Dooley ordered WT to integrate. And that's where the story begins, with Betty Jo Thomas, Maydean Franklin, Roy Watson, and Helen Neal paving the way. Right now, I'd like to introduce Angela Allen, our Chief Officer for Diversity and Inclusion, and a 1993 graduate of WT.
Thank you, Rochelle. It seems strange to see your former students doing so well. I remember giving him his Easter speeches at church when he was a little boy. I just want to say welcome to you. It's an honor to welcome you here tonight. The definition of integration is the practice of uniting people for different races in an attempt to give people equal rights. The incorporation as equals into society or an organization of individuals from different groups. As Rochelle said, 60 years ago wasn't that long. But to see all of you here now and to look around campus and see all of our students of color, all of our first generation students, all of our international students, it's a beautiful sight. To have you here from near and far, it's an honor and a testament. All of the students at WT benefit from the roads that you walked 60 years ago. WT has grown, and many of you have worked hard to make that happen. I welcome you with open arms to the university. Looking out into this audience makes me so excited, I can hardly stand it. So welcome, and welcome to WT. And now we will have a message from our president, the 11th president of West Texas A&M University, Dr. Walter Wendler.
Good evening. I am Walter Wendler, president of West Texas A&M University, the Panhandles University. Although I am unable to be with you in person, I want to congratulate and thank our 7 honored guests who blazed new trails for WT and countless students who have followed you. WT alumni possess the Panhandle pioneer spirit. As stated in the long-range plan, WT 125 from the Panhandle to the world, J.A. Hill said, "The pioneer, wherever found, is self-reliant of necessity and is courageous because he or she is habitually meeting situations from which they cannot run away. Pioneers are tenacious and determined because it takes such qualities to wrest victory from forces which everywhere oppose them." Tonight we honor 7 WT pioneers: Roy Watson, Helen Neal, Claudia Stewart, Roger Scott, Judy Turner, Billy Cannon, and Ron King. We honor and thank you for your tenacious, determined, and courageous spirit as you unflinchingly compelled the university toward integration. We have a wonderful video that commemorates your efforts that forever transformed WT. Our students represent diverse backgrounds, family histories, personal beliefs, and aspirations, and each of them benefit from a WT education. I also want to thank Angela Allen for her hard work as our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Angela's tenacity and guidance opened the WT Nathaniel and Helen Neal Multicultural Suite here on campus in January 2020. The suite honors Nathaniel Neal, who was the first African-American faculty member at WT in 1971, and Helen Neal, who was the first African-American to graduate from WT in 1963. At WT, we embrace the opportunity of enhancing our experiences and cultural perspectives, and we also believe in learning from the past. As we grow into a bold future vision, we aspire to continue creating an inclusive campus and an educational experience that supports all who WT students, faculty, and staff are composed. Again, thank you all for what you have done for this great university. And as always, on, Buffaloes.
All right, everybody, I know the food smells delicious, and I know y'all are hungry. So Joseph Peterson, a 2010 graduate of WT, is going to come up and give us the invocation and words of inspiration.
Good evening. We are here to celebrate the 60th anniversary of integration at West Texas A&M University and to honor those individuals, those brave individuals who pioneered change on WT's campus. It's an incredible honor for me to be here today, and it's amazing to think just 60 years ago, or if this was 1960, I wouldn't be standing here today, but a change came. I would not have been able to step on campus as a freshman student athlete what is now 15 years ago, but change came. If it were 1960, I would not have graduated from the College of Business and later came back to the university to give the alumni charge in both the full Buffalo Stadium as well as the full Alumni Center, or it's not Alumni Center, excuse me, the full First United Event Center. But a change came. I have a deep sense of gratitude for change, and I am thankful for those that came before us and those pioneers that instituted change here on campus, what is now 60 years ago. I can only imagine what went through their minds as they stepped on campus, and I just hear the words of the musical genius Sam Cooke. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh yes, it will. And the change came, and I'm so grateful that that change came, and extremely grateful for those pioneers that expressed so much courage stepping onto the campus. So thank you to the honorees. And now I want to express gratitude for this meal that we're about to receive. Thank you to the hands that prepared it. May it be nourishing to our bodies. Bless those hands and bless us who are getting ready to receive it. Thank you very much.
All right, everybody, when I call your table number, you'll be able to proceed to the line for dinner. But just be sure to save me a plate, because I feel hungry. Yeah. Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, so what we'll do is I'll call y'all in groups of threes. So for right now, tables 1, 2, and 3, y'all are free to go and get your eat on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, right now we'll have the proclamation from the Panhandle Plains Museum by Angela Allen.
Did everybody get something good to eat? Is everybody full? Okay, I hope they save one piece of chicken for me. I feel like it's such an honor and such a privilege to be here to read this proclamation from the Panhandle Plains Historical Museum. On this day, October 8th, 2021, whereas we want to thank you for sharing your story with West Texas A&M University and the community, and for having the courage to pursue the first steps towards integration 60 years ago. Whereas your courage as one of the first Black students of WT is inspiring for future students to follow in your example, and for those who sadly ought to have come long before. You're an inspiration to the people of this region, the state, and the nation. Whereas, on behalf of the Panhandle Plains Historical Society, it is my distinct honor to inform you that your interview, story, and testimony will be permanently held in the archives of the Panhandle Plains Museum. Whereas your story will stand as an enduring witness to future generations of patrons, researchers, students, faculty, and all those who inquire after the history of this region. Whereas we are thrilled that your history will have pride of place among our collection. Thank you for being a pioneer. Thank you for your legacy, your courage, and your story. On behalf of Dr. Andrew Hay, Executive Director of the Panhandle Plains Historical Museum, each of you will receive a copy of this proclamation. Respectfully, Dr. Andrew Hay.
All right, and now we're ready for the awards. And we'll be honoring you with the WT Diversity Buffalo. Now, this buffalo is draped with the colors that represent the African American, Native American, Hispanic and Latino, and international cultures and countries that encompass the student body of West Texas A&M University. The Diversity Buffalo is given by the Office for Diversity and Inclusion to honor the works of those who are dedicated to the efforts of diversity, inclusion, and equity for all people. When I call your name, please make your way to the stage to receive your award. And if anybody needs help, let us know and we'll take care of you. We got a video that's coming first.
Were there any Black students here at the time?
Nope,
You were the first. Tell me that. Tell me
not on campus. I was the first person on this campus. And I met Coach Kerbo because he thought I was one of his football players, and he told me he had 5 football players coming.
I came to WT in 1967. My brother came here in 1966. Yeah, come on down, sis.
My parents are Nathaniel and Helen Neal. We have a multicultural suite named after them now. Mama was one of the first African American graduates of WT, and my father was one of the first faculty members.
My name is Judy Mitchell Turner. I'm a former student of WT.
I'm Roger C. Scott Jr. I came to WT in 1970. I was director of TRIO programs.
I came here at fall of 1965. I came on an athletic scholarship. I say I was a blocking dummy, but I was an athlete.
I came down in September of 1966. I came on the opportunity plan. When I arrived on campus, there were, I'm going to say, 50 African American students on campus. 46 of them were football players.
As an African American student here at WT, it was different. The thing that really struck out for me was that most of the other black students that were here were part of the athletic program. And so to be an individual student, a female on the campus, you could count us on two hands.
It was a challenge with some instructors and some office personnel to accept me as an administrator. There were a few peons down the line that wasn't quite ready to see as many minority students nor staff people on the campus. It was an experience. You know, you're gonna have champions and you're gonna have some who's not champion the idea, especially back at that particular time.
My biggest problem was some of the instructors, because I knew they didn't want me here. And it was sort of like in some of them that no matter what you do, you're not gonna get a decent grade.
There were tensions on the campus because for me, being a person who was always involved, so looking around for opportunities on the campus to be involved, there wasn't that much that was open to me. I would have to seek out those organizations, because they weren't offering themselves up to me, so I would have to seek them out and then find out that most of them, especially sororities, they were closed to black students.
I remember a time when I went into a classroom, sat down, it's kind of the middle of the room, near the back, and other students came in, the white students. I was the only black student in there, and no one sat beside me or in front of me.
I can also say that was three people that I appreciated, and that was Mary Fish and Dr. Jenny Lynn Porter. She was my favorite person. And then Mr. Cox, who was business law instructor.
The Dean of Students, who was T. Page Caruth at the time. Dr. Caruth was someone that I could talk to, so I was always in his office.
The upper echelon really backed me and made it easy to be employed at West Texas State.
Just wasn't enough places here in Canyon to go and things to do.
We decided to charter a chapter of fraternity on campus, and we had the first African American charter male on campus there, Omega Psi Phi.
And once they were being accepted into the different organizations and everything, well, that made all the difference in the world, because they could participate meaningfully in the activities of the university.
And ups and downs, kind of like what I was talking about with the instructors. So I'm just saying, some of the stuff now that I see happening, I wonder how I got to be a chief administrator 40 years ago.
You are challenged, and when you see discrimination, when you see the ugly faces of racism, you want to stand up and say something about it. And you know that, that's the only way that you're going to do it, because nobody else is going to do it for you.
Well, we've come some ways. We still have some ways to go, I do believe. And it's going to take young people, I think, to change some of that. Education is the key, I do believe, to improving yourself, to improving the world. So we have to be educated. I really hadn't thought about them as being pioneers. They were just my parents. And they did those things because it was important to them. Education was important, and that's what they did.
It's difficult to be a first.
There's a burden. There's a life lesson from being the first. You can share with what you've learned with those who are to come.
I would say to students today, now if your heart is in it and it wasn't violent, it was non-violent, I think they should express themselves, because I think that's where change comes.
You know what, I've seen changes, and I'm hoping that it continues, and I believe it will, because I think the younger generation is one that will help that become reality.
Coming to WT, I didn't know what to expect.
I wasn't sure if I would be welcomed or if I would fit in.
I've always heard stories about what a privilege it is to attend college, because there was a time when students of color were not allowed to attend.
Since coming to WT, I've learned so many things about different people, cultures, and religious beliefs.
Because of you, your experiences, and your beliefs in the educational rights of all people,
You have made a significant difference in my life as well as my family's life.
I am Griselda Santiago, a health science major at WT. Thank you for paving the way for my future.
I am Deandra Murray, a communications study major at West Texas A&M University. Thank you for paving the way for my future.
My name is Eric Collins. I'm a student athlete here at West Texas A&M. I'm an SCS major. Thank you for paving the way for my future.
Go ahead and give them another round of applause. They deserve it. Okay, and now we'll give the awards. Sorry about that. All right, so I'll go ahead and call the names. And like I said, if you need help getting up on stage, please let us know. We'll take care of you. We'll start off with Roy Watson, who attended from 1960 to 1963. Mr. Watson was one of the first African Americans to enroll at WT in 1960, 6 months after integration was ordered. Watson attended Patton High School and George Washington Carver High School in Amarillo and spent most of his career working for the Veterans Administration Hospital. When he retired, he was one of the first African Americans to become Chief Medical Administrator. Roy is an accomplished musician and studied at the Sherman School of Music in Los Angeles. He's jammed out with great musicians such as Johnny Taylor, Sam Cooke, and Aretha Franklin. Mr. Watson and his wife have 2 sons and a daughter. Our next honoree is the late Helen Elliott Neal, who attended from 1961 to 1962. Accepting for Helen Neal is her daughter Dolores Thompson, and she received her master's degree in nursing in 1992. Helen Neal is the first African American to graduate from WT. In 1971, her husband Nathaniel Neal became the first African American faculty member at the school. In February 2020, the Nathaniel and Helen Neal Multicultural Suite was opened in their honor for their committed dedication to the education of all people. Helen and Nathaniel had 4 daughters, 2 of whom are WT alumni. She has 2 grandchildren and a grandson-in-law that attended WT. Ron King attended WT from 1965 to 1972. He was a member of the 1967 Buffalo team that played in the Pasadena Bowl, known as the Junior Rose Bowl. The Buffs beat San Fernando Valley State 35-13. He retired from Santa Fe Railroad after 32 years as a locomotive engineer. Ron is a member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and he's married to Diane King, and they have a son and a daughter. Claudia Stewart attended WT from 1967 to 1972. Last night, Mrs. Stewart was named to the West Texas A&M University Distinguished Alumni List, and she's the Professor Emeritus for Criminal Justice and Sociology. Claudia had many firsts at WT, one of which is when she was the first African-American female faculty member in 1996. Stewart is a poet and a published author, and she currently has 15 books published. She's a member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Oh, and she absolutely loves penguins. I'm not done. Claudia Stewart is married to Harold Stewart, my buddy, a former WT football player and a member of the Hall of Champions, and they have 2 daughters. Billy Cannon attended WT from 1966 to 1971. Billy was a basketball standout in Childress and was the first African American to be accepted as a walk-on basketball player at WT. He was also the African American vice president of a bank right down the street in Amarillo. He was a member of Omega Phi Psi fraternity, and he's married to Charlie Cannon, and they have 2 children, a son and a daughter. Judy Mitchell Turner attended WT from 1967 to 1972. When she first came to WT, this was the first time she had ever attended classes with white students. It wasn't until June 1971 that the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights told Amarillo ISD that the district didn't comply with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and Amarillo schools integrated. Judy taught English for 30 years at Caprock High School, and she's a member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Judy Turner is married to Johnny Turner, and they have a son and a daughter. Roger Scott attended WT from 1970 to 19. He worked at WT from 1970 to 1996. He was the first African American at the school to be hired as director of Upward Bound and Student Support Services. During his career, Scott recruited many students from the 26 counties of the Panhandle to WT, many of whom may have never gone to college. He spent many years fighting for civil rights as a president of the Amarillo NAACP, and he's a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. He was married to the late Ruth Scott for 49 years, and they had 4 children. He's now married to Mrs. Nadine Scott. Now we'll have a special presentation by Angela Allen.
It is such an honor for me to be able to make this presentation. Years ago, when these students came to WT, a lot of them had obstacles, families, they had to work, those kinds of things. Some of them were able to graduate and leave and do great things. Some of them did not graduate and went on to do great things. And so it is an honor and a pleasure to recognize one of those students, Mr. Roy Watson. Roy, when he came to WT in 1960, one of the first, he had a family, and he went to WT on what was called the GI Bill, and he went to school long enough until his GI Bill ran out, and he knew he needed to take care of his family. So he went through a training program at the VA hospital. He was the first African American to go through the nursing assistant program. And through the years, he stayed with the VA. He moved out to Los Angeles and worked his way through the ranks at the VA hospital. He also went to a prestigious school of music and played with some of the latest and the greatest. And all of that still thinking about WT. It's been 1963 when the last time Roy was on campus until a month ago when he came to do his story. And he was so excited about it. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share a personal note that I shouldn't, but I'm going to. I was talking to his daughter on the phone. Mr. Watson had an unexpected medical situation a couple of weeks ago. And his daughter shared with me, the doctor said to her, "What is going on in Texas?" And she was questioned it. He said, "What is going on in Texas?" That's what he's fighting for. He wants to get back to Texas. And that really touched my heart, that he was doing everything that he could to be here. And so it is such an honor. So I would like to share with you Mr. Watson. Since its founding in 1913, Beta Gamma Sigma has recognized collegiate business and management scholars, outstanding academic achievements, and personal accomplishments. Lifetime membership is the highest recognition business scholars anywhere in the world can receive at a business program accredited by the AACSB International, the leading business school accrediting agency globally. Beta Gamma Sigma Association includes prominent business schools around the country, including Harvard University, Stanford University, the University of Texas, Texas A&M University, and West Texas A&M University. Members currently reside in all 50 US states and more than 160 countries and serve to incorporate government, nonprofit, educational, and other management positions at a very high level of responsibility. We are grateful for the critical role you played in helping WT advance integration efforts. We are inspired by your story and your courage. We are honored you are a part of the WT family. Given the combination of your academic and your personal accomplishments and your role in advancing the university's mission, it is our privilege to induct you as a lifetime member into the West Texas A&M University chapter of Beta Gamma Sigma through the Engler College of Business. Congratulations on your induction to the Beta Sigma Gamma Honor Society, and thank you for your leadership. Sincerely, Dr. Neil Terry, Executive Vice President and Provost, Engler Professor of Economics at West Texas A&M University, and Dr. Ahmad Abdullah, Dean and Professor of CIS, Paul and Virginia Engler College of Business, West Texas A&M University. And if you will just come right here, Rochelle, if you'll help me. He will pin your Beta Gamma Sigma pin and give you the Gamma Sigma medallion. Let's give him another round of applause. I am so honored and humbled to be in the room with such greatness, both young and old. WT has come a long way in 60 years. I'd like to thank so many people at the university who have helped to make this honor possible. The WT Alumni Association, the Education Credit Union, the Office of the Provost, College of Education and Social Sciences, Paul and Virginia Engler College of Business, the Cornett Library, and the Jack B. Kelly Student Center staff, the BSU, Black Student Union, and the diversity ambassadors, and Mr. George Pacheco, your friendly bartender back there. A special thanks to the Communication and Marketing Department. This could not have happened without Kelly Polden, Dewana Pierce, Lisa Davis Huff, excuse me, Chip Chandler, stand up, Chip. Darcy Lively, wave Darcy. They're the team that is responsible for all this beautifulness that you see going on here. The University Diversity Committee, who is always striving to bring the utmost quality of diversity and inclusive programming. I can't thank you enough for all that you do. To Rochelle Hamilton Jr. He's always had a love of trains. Since I've known him as a little boy, he's had a love of trains, and he wants to be a train engineer. Rochelle, you are an engineer right now. You're driving things. So on Monday morning, Rochelle is the new morning anchor for Channel 4. So I told him he's gonna make me change from watching the other channel in the mornings to watching him in the morning. But it's well deserved. He's worked long and hard for it. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for doing this for me.
I like this buffalo. It's pretty cool. I did not expect this, but I got to give all the glory to God. So she's right. I always wanted to drive trains when I was a little boy, and as Mr. Harold Stewart can attest, I used to follow him around church, asking him crazy questions like, "How do you blow the horn?" But God had different plans for me, and I'm thankful. So I don't know where this is gonna go, but I'm letting Him lead. So it's all Him. Thank y'all.
To the honorees, thank you for the courage that you took the courage to take those heavy steps so that these students can take lighter steps. I humbly thank you, and to the students in the room, when times get hard, just remember, in life, you may be the first to enroll in something. You may be the first to be hired. You may be the first to be promoted. You may be first to wear the crown. But never doubt yourself or the path that you're taking. Because of you, because of everything you do, you are paving the way for someone else. Just as all of these people paved the way for you. So to everyone who came from near and far, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you. You're all a blessing to West Texas A&M University. Thank you. I think we have just a few more announcements, Rochelle. There's a lot of activities going on this weekend. We have the balloons set up. Oh, am I doing your job? We do, if you want to take photos with your family members and your awards, we do have the photo booth set up in the back. And please feel free to mingle and drink and have some more beverages.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget about the speakeasy party that's going on at the museum shortly. Starts at 8 p.m., goes on to 10. Over at Panhandle Plains Museum, that's hosted by the museum and the WT Alumni Association. Then we also have like I told y'all earlier, the homecoming parade, which is tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Russell Long Boulevard. The routes changed due to safety reasons, but it's new and it's improved. Then there's the Countdown to Kickoff Block Party hosted by WT Athletics, and that follows the parade immediately, and that's going to be on 26th Street. So join them for a lot of food, a lot of fun, and most of all, that Buff spirit. Then, of course, we got the WT football game tomorrow. The Buffs take on the Angelo State Rams. That's going to be at 7 p.m. at Buffalo Stadium, and that's going to top off homecoming weekend. So just come on out and cheer your Buffs on.
Also, our 7 honorees are going to be the honorary captains, football captains at the football game tomorrow, so you'll get to see them there. So I, again, thank you. Was a privilege to do this, a privilege to see all of you. When we first started this idea, we wanted to include all cultures and here at WT, and we decided, since we found out it was 60 years of integration, that we would do integration. And it was ironic when I was looking it up, there were other cultures here long before African Americans. And so that's why we did the focus. Our next focus will be on our Hispanic and Latino graduates and our international graduates. So please look forward, and thank you so much. And for all of you out there, when you're away living your lives, don't forget about the students. Y'all stand up. If you're a WT student, stand up. This is our future. And there's some of the things that the challenges that you met back then, they're meeting right now. So just give them a word of encouragement, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And y'all have a blessed evening.